Good morning and a very warm welcome to everyone present here. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to today's session, Revisiting the Past, Chronological Reordering of Indian History, organized by Arohi Research Foundation. On behalf of Arohi Research Foundation, I once again extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to each one of you to this enlightening session on the chronological reordering of Indian history. It is truly heartening to see scholars, students, and seekers of knowledge gathered here with one shared intent to re-engage with Bharat's civilizational past, not merely as history, but as a living continuum of ideas, values, and vision. In this endeavor, we are privileged to have with us Professor Ravi Prakash Arya ji, a distinguished scholar whose contributions to Vedic studies and Indian historiography have inspired many. We look forward to gaining fresh insights from his erudite presentation today. I request Professor Arya to come and occupy the seat on the stage, and I request Monali to formally welcome him on the behalf of Arohi Research Foundation. Dr. Ravi Prakash Arya is an eminent Vedic scholar, philologist, historian, and philosopher. A prolific speaker and writer, he has traveled widely around the globe and delivered hundreds of popular and academic talks on various topics of Vedas, Indian history, linguistics, philosophy, culture, and scientific Indian heritage in various countries of the world. He has delivered more than a dozen radio and TV talks in Bharat, Canada, USA, Trinidad, etc. He has participated in more than 60 national and international conferences and seminars in India and abroad. He has so far produced several research papers and over 70 books on the various aspects of Vedas, Indian history, and culture. He has convened several conferences on Vedic sciences and spirituality. It is indeed an honor to have you with us, sir.
I am happy today that I have been invited to speak on a topic which is very hot and burning. And generally we think that whatever chronology of the Indian history has been provided till date, that is by foreigners and based upon some prejudices and their concepts. In fact, the beginning of the chronology, whether it is India or the Europe, started under the influence of the church. Church is the influencer of chronology. So I don't. Church is the influencer of chronology and everything in ancient times. And this very famous name is there, James Ussher. He was in 1581 to 1656. He declared by that time that Earth originated on October 23, 4004 BC. So this was the milestone set up by church. And we know the credentials of the church by that time. They used to say, earth is flat, the sun is moving round the earth. So their credibility is known to everybody. But what happened? The scientists later, just like Galileo, they challenged the church. They did not accept their foundations. And even the geologists, they did not go by their statement. And they made their own geological eras starting from 2.5 billion years ago. They started like that. But the historians, they kept themselves under the dominance of the church, and they did not want to cross the limits set by church. In fact, it was suitable for them also, because in the West there was no such history. They don't have any historical records in their country, and they were trying to find out the history by digging earth and their places. That is known as archaeology. Whatever, and they set certain norms and parameter. Whatever is ratified by archaeological research, that is history, and whatever is not proved by archaeological research, that is not history. And they made so many eras, proto-history, past history, like that. But the main theme that, forced them, that was the Bishop Usher's 4004 BC. And under this influence, Max Muller comes in and he sets the date for Rig Veda as 1500 BC to 1800 BC at the earlier stage. You can suppose if the earth originated 4004 years BC, then the ancient most date that can be assigned to Rig Veda can only be the 1500 BC to 1800 BC. But in later stages, Max Muller himself declared that whatever chronology dating I assign to the Rig Veda, that is not true, and Rig Veda cannot be assigned any date, that he declared. So this was the chronology influenced by church. Now what happens? People say that we did not have any chronology. William Jones comes on the stage of India in 1757 and he assigns the chronology to Indian history. And what was his assignment? He says, I have quoted here, that Shishunag dynasty 1962 BC, Nanda dynasty 1602 BC, Mauryan dynasty 1502 BC, Sung dynasty Pushyamitra Sung 1365 BC, then Kshema Bhumi 1253 BC, Kanva dynasty 1253 to 908 BC, Andhra dynasty 908 BC to 452 BC, and last king being the Chandravis. So this chronology was not assigned me. This was assigned by William Jones, who was the founder of the Asiatic Society of Bengal. After that, what happened? The Europe got surprised because they had no history, they had no such ancient most chronology, and the plot starts. They started India bashing program in the chronology of Indian history, and we see many scholars. M. Winternitz, he was a Vedic scholar. His book, History of Indian Literature, is very famous. He says, they started saying that Indians have no sense of history. They can relate facts, but they are not able to give chronology to the Indian history. At one hand, William Jones assigned the chronology, and on the other hand, what he says, to them the facts themselves were more important than their chronological order. They attached no importance at all, especially in the literary matters, to the question of what was earlier or what later. You just see what he says. A. MacDonald, another Vedic scholar of repute in the West, he says, weakness of Indian literature. History is one weak spot in Indian literature. It is in fact non-existent. The total lack of historical sense is so characteristic that the whole course of Sanskrit literature is darkened by the shadow of this object, suffering as it does from an entire absence of exact chronology. Contradictory statements start appearing. Then further, we have the Max Muller, the most great Vedic scholar, who had no knowledge of Sanskrit, who never came India, who never studied Sanskrit, but he is acclaimed a greatest Vedic scholar. And what he says, no wonder that a nation like India cared so little for history. So, at one hand, William Jones says something, And on the other hand, they started declaring the absence of history in India. And now, what is Western scholars' view of history that time? I'm not talking about this time, that time. There comes Karl Jaspers, writer, The Origin and Goal of History. He reveals the Western view of history. And what is that? In the Western world, the philosophy of history was founded in the Christian faith, a faith that originated only 1 BC, around 1 BC they say. And the faith, they say the history is founded in the Christian faith, in the grandiose sequence of works ranging from St. Augustine to Hegel. This faith visualized the movement of God through history. God's act of revolution represent the decisive dividing lines. And Hegel was proud to say, all history goes toward and comes from Christ. Christ was the center of history. If you will talk anything, you will have to make Christ as the center, and that is why we say before Christ, after Christ, means there was nobody existing before that period except Christ. History goes towards and comes from Christ. The appearance of the Son of God is the axis of the world history. Our chronology bears daily witness to this Christian structure of the history. You just see the definition of history, and this is being still followed by all communist historians, Western historians, and Indian historians who are their followers. Thus, we can see that Christ was claimed as the center of history, but the historian philosophers like Jaspers, he criticizes it, the idea of history writing based on Christian faith. What he says, they started criticizing themselves. But the Christian faith is the only one faith, not the faith of entire mankind. This view of universal history therefore suffers from the defect that it can only be valid for believing Christians. But even in the West, Christians have not tied their empirical conceptions of the history to their faith. An article of faith is not an article of empirical insight into the real cause of history as being different in its meaning. Now you just understand one more thing. Before this Gregorian calendar, because this Gregorian calendar was modified by Pope Gregory in 1582. Until 1582, before that, Julian calendar was in currency. Until 1582, Europeans, they were not aware about zero. That is why, while assigning chronology, 182, they jumped to 1 BC. So, zero is absent. When Gregory comes and he modifies the Julian calendar into Gregorian calendar, he tells that zero is missing from our calendar. That because in Julian calendar there was no count of leap days was there, and the calendar was going behind by some 15-20 days by his time. Then he corrected it and introduced this Gregorian reforms. Even in England, till by then also, England did not accept the Gregorian calendar. You can just see the calendar, where the calendar is wrong, where there is a difference of 25 days before 1582, how can they claim to be the originator of right chronology? Their entire chronology is wrong because so many days are absent. They cannot define the historical matters in their chronological system. But we were told that we do not know chronology. Whereas William Jones is assigning this chronology. Now what happens? The Max Muller comes. When William Jones assigned the chronology based upon Puranas, because our Puranas, they have given entire chronology. Then Max Muller forced him to change his view and to demote this chronology. What he says? He says there is but one means through which the history of India can be connected with Greece. Because if you assign that chronology, Greek will come quite late. And what happens? Not only that, even Greek scholar E. Pokak is there. He wrote a book, India in Greece, and he writes there, this entire Greece was populated by Indians. The Macedonia name is a corrupt form of Magad. And he says, War of Troy was fought by the Kshatriyas from Bharata. So Greek was later civilization inhabited by Indians. The entire Europe was inhabited by us. But the reverse theory was given of Aryan invasion and so many things. I am not going into those details. I have already spoken on these issues in Chennai yesterday. So I am just quoting this great scholar. He is saying there is but one means through which, because William Jones asks, then how can we demote this history, chronology of Indian history? He says, he suggests there is but one means through the history of India can be connected with Greece, and it's the chronology be reduced to proper limits, although we look in vain in the literature of the Brahmanas or Buddhists for any allusion to Alexander's conquest. Although it is impossible to identify any of the historical events related by Alexander's companions with the historical tradition of India, one name has fortunately been preserved by classical writers who describe the events immediately following Alexander's conquest to form a connecting link between the history of the East and the West, and that is the name Sandrocotus or Sandrosiptus, the Sanskrit Chandragupta. So he suggested this thing. First of all, I would like to inform there is another scholar. He was the president of Calcutta High Court, French scholar Louis Jacoliot. He also wrote a book, Bible in India. And Louis Jacoliot says that the Alexander's victory over Porus, it's hoax. Alexander never defeated Porus. I am not saying, he is saying that. And after he was defeated by Porus, then he returned back. And what happened? A emperor who is coming as a winner all the way, when he is defeated and goes back, then all those defeated rulers, they attacked him back. And he was killed on the way itself. So this was the story. But we are told till today that Porus was defeated by Alexander, and that great statement made by Porus, just like a ruler behaves with another ruler, you behave with my... He was made a hero by this statement, and the reality was, concealed by those historians. Then this Sandrocotus came. I am a linguist. I have done a lot of work on linguistics. The word Sandrocotus, it is close to the word Samudragupta. It cannot be Chandragupta, because linguistically Sandrocotus is quite close to Samudragupta, and his son name is found in the Greek. And this great Max Muller says that Sandrocotus is the Sanskrit Chandragupta. Now, you just see. I'll come to this point later. There are two things. If Chandragupta Maurya is there, then his son was Ashoka or Bindusar. These two names are there. So this another name, Sandrosiptus, is not, having any similarity. But we have Samudragupta and his son Chandragupta II. So Sandrocotus is a Samudragupta and Sandrosiptus is the Chandragupta. These two names are quite similar. One more thing, Megasthenes Indica is there. They are quoting because they don't rely our sources. Whatever Megasthenes says, that becomes first chapter of Indian history. If Fayan says, that becomes another chapter of Indian history. If El-Biruni says something, that becomes another chapter of Indian history. If Mortimer Wheeler excavates something in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, that becomes another chapter of Indian history. Whatever we say, that is mythology, that is concocted stories and no belief. Even Rajshekhar's Rajtarangini, that gives a long list of chronological order of the Kashmiri rulers, that was never acknowledged as the history. So these sources of historians, whom they consider as great historians, and relied upon whose books they are propagating all these theories. Now I'll tell you. In Megasthenes Indica, although it is in a very dilapidated form and just made translation by I forgot that name, English scholar, Megasthenes Indica has nowhere mentioned word Maurya, because through him this Mauryan and all these theory is being propagated. He makes absolutely no mention of a person called either Chanakya or Kautilya. So how can that Candrocotus of Greek, where we say that Seleucus was in the court of Chandragupta Maurya? There is no mention. Interestingly, Megasthenes has written that Candrocotus had a son called Candrosiptus. He writes it. Candrocotus is phonetically close to Samudragupta and Candrosiptus to Chandragupta, son of Samudragupta. Note Chandragupta and Bindusar as allegedly. Megasthenes himself says that 137 generations of the king have come and gone between Lord Krishna and Candrocotus, whereas Puranas account for the only 83 generations between Jarasandha's son Krishna's, who was Krishna's contemporary, to the Nandas of the Magad kingdom. If we pull on this chain up to Gupta dynasty, the list of kings come close to 137. As such, Megasthenes' statement itself proves that Candrocotus of Greek account was corresponding to the Samudragupta of Gupta period instead of Chandragupta of Mauryan period. Now I have done some refutations of their claims. According to Greek accounts, Jandramas was deposed by Candrocotus. Means Chandragupta defeated Jandramas. In the case of Chandragupta Maurya, who had deposed Dhanananda of Nanda dynasty, and the name of his son was Bindusar, both these names, Dhanananda and Bindusar, have no phonetic similarity with the name Jandramas and Candrosiptus of the Greek accounts. Whereas from Allahabad pillar inscription attributed to the eulogy of Samudragupta, we are informed that the northern king Chandravarman was deposed by Samudragupta. So this Jandramas of Greek account is quite close to Chandravarman. Now next aspect, Megasthenes, who visited Patliputra during Gupta period, refers to the word Polibothra to determine whether Patliputra served as a capital of the Mauryas. The Puranas are the sole source of information. The Puranas provide details about the 80 dynasties that ruled Magadha after Mahabharata war from 3067 BC onwards. These dynasties are listed and Girivarj is mentioned as their capital. However, the name Patliputra is not even mentioned anywhere in the Puranas. Chandragupta of the Gupta dynasty conquered Patliputra in 323 BC and established it as his capital. Therefore, the association between Polibothra and Patliputra holds true of Samudragupta of the Gupta period and not for Chandragupta of the Mauryan period. Next. Now the question is, if this type of wrongs are there in Indian history, how to reconstruct the Indian history, the chronology of the Indian history. This is a very crucial question. So we have sources, chronological sources, Puranas, we have Kalhanas, Ras Tarangini, and we have certain eras which have lost, which we do not remember. We have to reconstruct, reinvestigate those eras. Just like we have Saptarishi era, starting from 6676 BC. We have two Shak eras. One Shak era starts from 583 BC, another Shak era starts from 78 AD. We have two Vikram eras. First Vikram era starts from 717 BC and second Vikram era starts from 57 BC. We have two Harshas. One Harsh starts from 457 BC and another Sri Harsh, he is 606 AD. So, and then we have a Tishya era, Tik Samvat, that was known as Kali era, Tik Samvat, and Pahadi era, so many eras, so many names are given to that era. Now we'll try to that one. First of all, the Saptarishi Samvat. Whether Saptarishi Samvat existed in India or not, we do not know, but the Greek historians, they know. Pliny and Arrian, their time period is 95 to 175 AD. They say that Indians used Saptarishi calendar that commenced in 6676 BC. And that Saptarishi calendar today, this year is 8800 second year of the Saptarishi. Saptarishis are, going in Punarvasu Nakshatra's second year. They are now in Punarvasu Nakshatra, the second year. Now you will ask how this Saptarishi Samvat was made. In fact, it was conjectured. It's not astronomical truth. The historians in the past, they made it a historical era to count the historical events, and they supposed that Saptarishi, there are 27 constellations. So every constellation was assigned 100 years to Saptarishis. So 27 constellations, so means one Saptarishi era circle is 2700 years. Either starting from Ashwini, sometimes starting from Kritika. There are different systems prevailed in this country, and those systems were accepted by different Puranic traditions. Now just say Saptarishi Samvat has been quoted in Puranas and Indian literature by various names. These are Laukik Samvat, Pahadi Samvat, Shastra Samvat, Katsa Samvat, Shak or Shaka, Kali, Tish and Tik. Even Kali Samvat, by the name of Kali it was called. And Al-Biruni himself says, who came to India around 131 AD, he says that in Kashmir and Peshawar, in all these places, Saptarishi Samvat is prevalent. So, Kalhana's Ras Tarangini also, whatever chronology he gives, that is based upon Saptarishi Samvat. So, this Samvat had many names. Now, its origin, I told, sends 100 years in one nakshatra, so 2700 years, one cycle. The shlok in Kali Yuga Rajavrittant is there. Saptavinshati Pariyante Kritsane Nakshatra Mandale Saptarishayastu Tishtanti Pariyayena Shatam. So, this nakshatra system I have drawn here, just like if they are in Magha, next time they will be in Ashlesha in retrograde means. two motions in retrograde and normal. Sometime Magha to Aslesha you will have to go, or Magha to Purva Falguni. These references are available in Puranas. So I have given the name of nakshatras here. It's not more important. Now, the four types of Saptarishi tradition in normal orders are available. First one is Kashmiri tradition. It starts from Kritika expired, means first year will start from Rohini Nakshatra, and that is what Kalhan has used. Skanda Puran has also used this system. Next one is Patna Samvat, Saptarishi Samvat, that starts from Ashwini Nakshatra as the first one, Revati expired. And whatever Greek historians are quoting, they are pointing out to this Patna Saptarishi Samvat. And third one is very popular, Ashwini expired, that is Bharani Samvat. No, sorry, this Ashwini expired Bharani Samvat, the Greek historian quoted, because generally we start the nakshatras from Ashwini. But in if you go to the Shatpatha Brahmana, they start the nakshatras from Kritika Nakshatra. So this is the different traditions were prevalent in India, and the retrograde motion. There are some four schools. The same Kashmiri, popular, that Revati, then this Ashwini, and Magha expired Ashlesha Samvat is also there, and that's first cycle starts from 1876 BC. I have just given here all these years. Now, counting methods. Saptarishi cycle of 2700 years. How the counting we can found? Sometime they will say Laukik Samvat 24. Means he is not quoting the nakshatra. When Saptarishi crosses one nakshatra and enters into another nakshatra, they started counting from 1 to 100. So such references will be available. Laukik Samvat 24, Laukik Samvat 97. That means nakshatra has not been given over there, but Saptarishi is 24th year, passing 24th year, 27th year, 54th year in some particular nakshatra. Another reference is by years. 3020 years passed. So you will have to calculate the Saptarishi system, what result will come. So these two types of things are there. In Kalhana's Rastaringini, we find a quote that Mahabharata war took place in 653 year. So this 653 means Kritika system. The sixth nakshatra is Magha, and the 53rd year of that Magha nakshatra, and that is the second cycle of this Saptarishi, just a minute, Kashmiri school. It starts from 3776 BC. If you deduct 653 years from 3776, the result is 3124 BC. So this is the Mahabharata period according to Kalhana's Rastarangini. Actually, Mahabharata period is 3137 BC. So there is a difference of some 12 or 18 years difference will continue in different systems, but they are very close to that date. Now, Rastarangini on Mahabharata, as I told, Rastarangini says, Shateshu Shatashu Saradheshu Trayadhikeshu cha bhutale kalergateshu varshanam abhuvan kuru pandava. As I told, this Kalhana he never used, he always used Saptarishi Samvat, and he is calling Kali as the Saptarishi era itself, what he means then, and according to that the date is this one. Now the application of Saptarishi Samvat. Now I have quoted some examples. The date of Nandas. Date of Nanda was assigned by William Jones around 1700 BC. But exact what is? According to Kali Yuga Raja Vrittant, 1500 Saptarishi years after Parikshita, Nanda's rule started. Here, after 1500 years means 15 nakshatra in retrograde motion. And Parikshit was born in 3137 BC. We all know during Mahabharata war, he was revived. In fact, he was killed by Ashwathama. Then Krishna revived him. It was Magh 40 by that time. And he says after 1500 years, so this year comes to be 1638 BC, Nanda's period. Then again date of Nandas, there are other evidences. According to Kali Yuga Raj Vrittanta, during the rule of Nanda, Saptarishis were in Shravana Nakshatra. There is another evidence. They were in Parikshit's time, they were in Magha. But in Nanda's period, they were in Shravana Nakshatra. When Shravana Nakshatra is 15 nakshatras behind in retrograde motion, as I told earlier. So this Saptarishayo Magha Yuktaha Kale Yaudhishthire Shatam Shravane te Bhavishyanti Kale Nandasya Bhupate. So if we deduct 3076 from 3176, Saptarishis were Magha in in 1638 BC at the time of Nanda's rule, and at the time of Nanda's rule they will be in Shravan 35. So this is another evidence what we get. Then another evidence is also there, and it is according to the Puranic tradition. It says Yavat Parikshito Janm Yavan Nandabhishechanam Etat Varsha Sahasram Tudeyam Pancha Dashottaram. The same thing is quoting. And in Bhagavad Purana also Arabhya Bhavato Janm Yavat Nandabhishechanam Etad Varsham Sahasram Tu Shatam Pancha Dashottaram. So these all are the references have been given in Puranas regarding the dating of Parikshit, dating of Nandas. Shravana Nakshatra, they ruled. Now again the above cited Puranic reading is according to the Kashmiri school. Parikshit was born in 3177 BC. By that time, Kashmiri Samvat was 639 or Magha 39 in currency, since Magha is the sixth nakshatra from Rohini in normal order. The above reading says that difference between birth of Parikshit and coronation of Nanda was 1015 Saptrishi years. This means 1015 years of Saptrishi Samvat. 639, the Nanda became king. So this is all pointing out to the same thing. Again, there is one more reference. I have just calculated that one also. Now the date of Andhras. Date of Andhras, William Jones says that Andhras ruled in 908 BC. But the exact date, this one, 876 BC. Vayu Puran clearly states that Saptarishis were in Magha constellation for 100 years during the reign of Parikshit. From 3176 to 30th 76, Saptarishis are in Magha Nakshatra. I have prepared a 9,000 years old calendar of Saptarishi era, starting from 6,670 years till date. So you can verify all these dates, and that is not only Saptarishis. Parallelly, I have given Kali Samvat, Tishya Samvat, Baharaspatya Samvat, Daivi tradition, Baharaspatya Samvat, Asuri tradition, Buddha Samvat, and all Saptarishi. So easily we can identify on those table which era is corresponding to which era. So based upon that system I am talking about. I am not talking about in the air, that is published and available. So Saptarishis were in Magha from 3176 to 30th 76, and will be in the 24th nakshatra from Magha, means Chitra nakshatra, when counted in retrograde order by the time of the start of the Andhra Satvahan dynasty. We find that in 1876 BC, Saptarishis entered in Chitra nakshatra. What? The same thing he says, Saptarishayo Magha Yukta Kale Parikshite Andhranshe tu Chaturvinshe Bhavishyanti Matemam. In Andhra period, they will be in the 24th nakshatra. So these were the chronology quoted in our Puranas. How can these Europeans understand it? Even the Indians, they are not able to understand it. We forgot the Samvriti, Saptrishi Samvat. So they were trying to find out whether Isamasi has been mentioned over there, because it's all after Isamasi. I was once delivering a lecture on science and technology in Mahabharata in Montreal, in Concordia University. Then a certain scholar, a white scholar, he rose up and he told, this Bhagavad Gita was written under the influence of Bible, and it was later added to Mahabharata. I was surprised to know that. Now, how come you say this? He told that, nobody knew about Bhagavad Gita before Adi Shankara. He translated it into Sanskrit. Then it became popular. And then it was added to Mahabharata. Then I asked him, what is the date of Shankara? He told 800 AD. And this Christ was 100 BC. Because you are very much right. But you are wrong while calculating the date of Shankara. So this type of conspiracy was done. We are not told. They are thinking far advance. First of all, they will set the date of Shankara. Then they will try to set Mahabharata and make narrative. So this type of system kept on. And our scholars, unmindful of their conspiracy, they kept on following them. So that is a tragedy with us. So again there is in Kali Yuga Raj Vrittanta, there is a shloka Chatur Vinshe Athanakshatri Vavishyanti Shatam Samaha Andhra Rajya Arabhya Kalad Ete Surrashaya, like that it is there. Date of Andhras, there is another Pramana, evidence is there. Andhra Rajyopakramattu Yavan Nanda Bhishechanam Antaram Tat Shatani Astau Pramana Jai Samasmrita. 800 years difference is there between Nandas and Andhras, and I established Nandas are around 1638 BC. So if you deduct, it is around 838 BC or 836 BC. From these statements, it's very clear. Now the decline of the imperial Guptas, it is mentioned in Saptarishi Samvat, and we have a shloka in Kali Yuga Raja Vrittanta. The shloka says, Yada punarvasu yashyanti ete saptrishayah punaha tada Sri Gupta vanshanam rashtam dainyam gamishyati. When these saptrishi will reach the Punarvasu nakshatra, the end of the Gupta dynasty will take place. So, who will calculate it? Only the Saptarishi Samvat, through Saptarishi era we can know it. When Gupta dynasty started from 327 BC, the time of Chandrakottas. And if you calculate from 327 BC, its decline took place during the period of Kumara Gupta, and his period is 126 BC to 82 BC. And whatever date is assigned to Guptas by modern historian, that date has been assigned by Al-Biruni to the Vallabhi Gupta Samvat. So Vallabhi Gupta Samvat is 319 AD, and that Vallabhi Gupta Samvat is quite different from the imperial Gupta Samvat. So that was merged. The actual Gupta Samvat was merged with the Vallabhi Gupta Samvat, and we were told that Guptas, they had their period from 320 AD, like that. So he says, and during the time of Kumara Gupta, 126 BC to 82 BC, Saptarishi lived in Punarvasu Nakshatra from 51 to 95 years. Matlab, when he started ruling, Saptarishis were in 51 year of Punarvasu. Then his period ended, they were in 95th year of Punarvasu. And once the Saptarishi will come in Punarvasu, again they will come after 2700 years. So it's very easy to calculate. And today also, we have Saptarishis in Punarvasu Nakshatra. Now again, Vikramaditya 1. I told there are two Vikramaditya eras. One is 71 717 BC. This Vikramaditya era, this started from Kritika month. And the 57 Vikramaditya era is Chaitradi, that starts from Chaitra. Today also this Vikramaditya in Gujarat, and today also the Gujarati year, you know, it starts from Kritika. Kartik Pratipada, Shukla Pratipada. And you know, we celebrate Deepavali on Kartik Amavasya. Deepavali, this Kartik was our financial year in India. And in Deepavali, I don't know about South, but in North, all merchants, all traders, they, finalize their checkbooks. And because the new year will start. So in India, the Vitta year, financial year, started from Kartik month, and the general year is started from, now it is starting from Chaitra month, but in ancient time, it started from Kartik year. And today in Gujarat, it's the same thing. So the first Vikramaditya era, that started, that time, year started from Kartik month. Now according to Skanda Purana, Vikramaditya I was born in 3020th Saptarishi Samvata. Tatastri Sahasresu Vinshatyachadikeshu cha Bhavishyam Vikramaditya Rajyam So Atha Pralapshatehe. Now this 3020 year. Generally people what they do? They deduct it from Kali Yugas, because they know only Kali Yuga, they don't know about Saptarishi. And Saptarishi, if you deduct it from 3076 Saptarishi, the second cycle, then the period of Vikramaditya is 756 BC. And he founded his era in 1770 BC. Now, Shak era, there is again mentioned in Skanda Purana. It says, the name Shaka will be associated with the alleviation of poverty in the Saptarishi year 1100. The verse goes like this. Tatah shat sahasreshu shatenapyadhikeshu cha shako nam bhavishyasasau ati daridrya harakah. So he says that in 1100 years of Saptarishi Samvat, there will be a Shaka king who will be alleviating the poverty. And this is Saptarishi. If you deduct 1100 years from third Saptarishi cycle, 1076 BC, is dated 24 AD, and he founded his era in 78 AD. These are all based upon Puranic references, based upon Saptarishi Samvat. Now again, there is one more dating of Saptarishi, and he assigns the date of Shankara. According to Sri Yallarya, no, this is not about Shankara, this is about another Shudrak. Yallarya, Shudrak Samvat was founded in Kali Samvat 2345. He is quoting Kali Samvat. And Kali Samvat, we know Kali Yuga started from 3101 BC. If you deduct 3101 BC, 2345 from 3101 BC, the date is around 786 BC. So this period of Shudrak is 786 BC. This is the Kali Yuga Praman. Now I am quoting the Saptarishi Samvat. Now one more thing. In Skanda Purana also there is a statement. Trishu Varsha Sahasreshu Kaler Yateshu Parthivaha Trishateshu Das Nyuneshu Ashyam Bhuvi Bhavishyato Shudrako Nam Viranam. At one place, Sudraka's date is 3556 BC as per Kali Yuga. But here also, Skanda Puran quotes the word Kali. And according to this, if you will deduct 310 years from Kali Yuga, the date will come quite low, but here he is quoting Saptarishi Samvat in the name of Kali Yuga, and this date is 786 BC. So 756 he started ruling, until 786 he ruled. 30 years rule is indicated by word. Here the word Kali is used to refer to Patna Saptarishi Samvat, the first cycle of which began in 776 BC. Since the year 3290 of Saptarishi belongs to the second cycle of Saptarishi, which commenced in 4076 BC. Therefore, by subtracting 3290 from 4076, we obtain 786 BC. So both these statements now, the date of Shudrak is quite close. As per Kali Yuga, it is 756 BC, and as per Saptarishi Samvat, his rule ended in 786 BC. So at one place Kali Yuga is Kali Yuga, at another place Kali Samvat is Saptarishi Samvat. And if you will think that another Saptarishi Samvat, this Skanda Puran's Kali Yuga is also Saptarishi Samvat, you cannot arrive at any date, and there will be the confusing picture of Indian history. But now there is no confusion, everything goes smoothly. Then I have quoted here another Samvat, a Tishya Samvat. A Tishya Samvat also started in this country based upon Saptarishi Samvat. Tishya is a name of a nakshatra. And you know, goddess Lakshmi was born in Tishya nakshatra. It's a tradition. So owing to the auspiciousness of Tishya Samvat constellation, a separate Tishya Samvat was carved out from Saptarishi Samvat. And it was when the Saptarishi Samvat second cycle was going on in 576 BC, and that second cycle Ashwini came into Tishya nakshatra. That from that period this Samvat was started, and it is 5057 BC. And you know, in our history these three Tishya Samvats are there, and they are often quoted by Jain text as Yudhishthir Samvat, because by that time Yudhishthir king was not there. Some Jain Tirthankar, he might have been named as Yudhishthir Samvat, and so if some Jain Yudhishthir reference is there, then we shall have to find out any of these three Tishya Samvats. And there is a scholar, his name is Nagina Ram Parmar. He wrote a book in 1887. That book was written in Urdu, or the name of the book was Twarikh-e-Qadim Aryavart. I was given that book by some scholar, and then I told, because the book is in Urdu, I am not able to understand anything. That scholar, he translated that book into Hindi, and first time I found the mention of the Tishya Samvat in his book. He says the Tik Samvat was also prevalent in this country. Then I had the idea, oh, this Samvat is also there. Then I did some calculations, and I found out this is one of the offshoots of the Saptarishi Samvat itself. Now, on the basis of this, Shankar's date, he defines. I didn't define that. By that time, I also used to think that Shankara's date is either 509 BC or 788 AD, whatever the scholars say, because this date is there. And you know how come this date? K.B. Pathak, one of the very famous historian, he quoted a manuscript, and that manuscript he says that he discovered it in Belgaum. And regarding the date of Shankar, and the date is given like that: Dushtachara Vinashaya Pradur Bhuto Mahitale Saeva Shankaracharya Sakshat Kaivalyanayaka Nidhi Geva Vanyavade Vibhave Shankara Ashtavarshe Chaturvedi Dvadashe Sarvashastra Krita. This it says that Shankar was born in 3889 years of Tik Samvata, Tishya Samvat. But he has used the Kalyavade. This Kali is used for Tik Samvat. Then there is another reference. The same year is there, and it is there in Nilkant Bhattaj Shankara Mandara Saurabha and Shankara Bhyudayam. He says, Navadhika Shiti Yutashta Shakta Yute Sahasra Tritaye Vyatite Tishya Samanam. He is using the word Tishya here, but other scholars they are translating Tishya as Kali. As I told, Kali is also Tishya. So both way this system goes. So here again Tishya, and one another reference is there in Shankar Vijay. He is also say Tishya. So two places Tishya word has been used, and at one place Kali word has been used. If you deduct 3889 years from Kali Yuga 3101, then Shankara's date is 788 AD. Either you will have to say that these references are wrong, we do not accept these references, but if you want to accept, the other historians will accept. Because references are there, and he says in Vibhava Jupiter Samvat, he was born in 3889th year of Tishya Samvata. So this Tishya Samvat, as I told, it is 5057 BC. So if you deduct 3889 from 5057 BC, the Shankara's date is 1168 BC. You will get confused how it happens, but other proofs are also coming. Wait. Then again, I told this Kali is Tishya. Other proofs I have shown here in Puranas. Then again, we find, just let me know what is Vibhava. In my calendar, that 9,000 years calendar, I told I have given a list, corresponding list, what Saptarishi or Tishya Samvat is corresponding to what. So this 1168 BC, there is a Vibhava Samvat in Daivi Parampara. But there is another tradition, it says Shankar was born in a Nandan Samvat. Nandan is also there. So one tradition says he was born in Vibhava Samvat, jovial Vibhava Samvat. Another tradition says Shankar was born in jovial Nandan Samvat. So either one of the tradition is to be, you will have to say it's false, it's concocted, or one is true. But at one side you will keep standing, no, Nandan is true. The other historians, K.D. Pathak and all, their team will say, no, Vibhav is true, because Vibhav is also. And surprisingly, 788 AD is also Vibhav Samvat. So quite match is there. They are not wrong when they say that this is Kali Yuga. Then next we come, I have just given reference, the Shankara's date will come further also. Second Tishya Samvat. I told there is not one Tishya Samvat, second Tishya Samvat also started when Saptarishis were in Vishakha Nakshatra, and its date is 3762 BC. I am not going into detail, and this is known as Yudhishthir Jain Samvat, as I told. Then application of this Samvat. You come to the Shankara's date now again. Prachin Vijaya. It refers the second Tishya Samvat. And the reference I have given, Tishya Prayati, Analashevadi, like that. He says, when 2593 years the Tishya Samvat passed away. So either you will have to deduct 2593 from Kali Yuga, or from this Tishya Samvat. And if you will deduct this 2500 year from Tishya first 5097, the date will be different. But this is the second Tishya Samvat, and if you will deduct 2593 from the second Tishya Samvat, the date is around the same, 1169 BC. So there is no clash between statements. Every statement is harmonizing, getting harmonized. Why? Because that time several samvatas, eras were prevalent at different places. Those Panchangakaras, they were calculating their own ways. Some samvatas, they are missing now, they lost from our memory, and only their, some signatures are left. So again, application of the second Tishya Samvat, 3762 BC. There is another quote, Maheshansat Zato, like that. And this also says the same. The above date corresponds to May 1130. It is about the death of Shankara. He says in 2625 Saptarishi Samvat, when Shankar was 32 years old, he passed away. So if we deduct 2625 from Tishya Samvat 3762, his date comes 1136 BC. So, but if you deduct it from Kali Yuga Samvat, his date will come 476 BC. And if you deduct the same 2593 from Kali Yuga Samvat, the date of Shankar will come 509 BC. What is we are accepting more? So there will be two pakshas. There will be two, sides. One is 788 AD, if we go by Kali Yuga as Tishya, and another paksha will be 509 BC. So there the clash will keep on going. So this is the another system. But if we take Saptarishi second, Tishya second, then it will coincide that same Tishya first, second, Saptarishi Samvat. Shankara's date is 1168 BC, his birth, 1136 BC, his passing away time. So this is, now third Tishya Samvat is also there. It started after 468 years after the second Tishya Samvat in 3294. That is known also as Yudhishthira era. And application of this third Tishya Samvat we find in Hisse Borla inscription quotes both third Tishya Samvat and Shak Samvat 583. I told the two Shak Samvats are there. 583 BC and this third Tishya Samvat 3294 BC. This inscription quotes both. What it says, the Hisse Borala inscription found in Vatsgulam region of Maharashtra mentions the date of construction of Sudarshan Lake in the Shak year 380. When the Saptarishi calendar had entered Uttara Falguni in 3030 Saptarishi Samvat. So how to calculate it? It's a mystery. Evidently the inscription refers to year 3020 as the third Tishya Samvat, which started in 3219 BC. In 3020 of the third Tishya Samvat, Saptarishis were in Uttara Falguni. My calendar will clarify it, Nakshatra. And Shak year was 380. So if they were in Uttara Falguni and Shak year is 380, then Shak year 380, if we deduct it from 583, it was 203 BCE. So they are in Uttar Falguni. And if you will deduct it from 78, the Saptarishis are not in Uttar Falguni. They will be somewhere else, because Uttar Falguni once come, it will come after 2700 years. And there is a difference of 583 to 78, only 485 years, some difference is there. So this, if we don't go by the Saptarishi or Tishya Samvat as I defined, there will be quite confusion. You cannot align the chronology of Indian history. Again, the third Tishya Samvat, it defines the epoch of Mahavir Jain. Jain Mahavir died in 2107, year of the third Jain Yudhishthir Samvat, 3294. Means 1186 BC he died. He is said to have lived for 72 years, so his date of birth was 2035, year of the third Jain Yudhishthir Samvat, that is 1258 BC. Jain works Tiloyappanati, Yati Vrishabha, Harivansh of Jinasena, Dhaval of Acharya Veerasena, Trilokasar, Nemi Chandra, Mahavira Charitam of Nemi Chandra, Vichara Shreni of Meru Tunga mentions that Mahavir attained Nirvana 605 years and 5 months before the epoch of Shaka era and 470 years before the Kritikadi Vikram era. This also confirms the currency of Shakira 583, because if you will add 615 to 583, the date will come around 1186, and if you will add 487 to the Shak 583, then the same date will be there, though Mahavira's date is from 1258 BC to 1186 BC. There are another examples. According to Jin Vijaya, Kumaril Bhatta studied under Jin Mahavira. 2 years later, after Jina's passing away, he was expelled from Jaina Sampradaya. In 2129, third Jain Yudhishthira. And we know Kumaril Bhatta is Shamkalin to Shankara. There was a encounter. So, in 1184, he was expelled, because in 1186, Mahavir Jain died. So, according to Jin Vijaya, Adi Shankara had a chance to meet Kumaril Bhatta at the age of 16. So, this is 1153 BC, because Shankara's date I have defined 1168 AD. So, now again you come to Kumaril Bhatta. The date has been given in Jin Vijaya. It says Rishivar Tatha Purana Martyaksha. I have quoted, I am not, it's a long one. We obtain the Jupiter year Krodhi in jovial year Krodhi when 2077 year of Yudhishthir Samvata, means 3209 to 3rd Yudhishthir Samvat. Kumaril Bhatta born in 2077 Yudhishthir Samvat and expired in 1216 BC. So this is the date in Jin Vijaya of Kumaril Bhatta. Chit Sukhacharya mentions in his Vrihata Shankara Vijaya that Kumaril Bhatta was older than Shankara by 48 years. Consequently, Shankara was born in 1168. Therefore, the exact date of Kumaril Bhatta aligns with that of Shankara. And note Jin Mahavir, Kumaril Bhatta and Shankaracharya, they are contemporaries. Now another Jain Yudhishthir Samvat is there. First Yudhishthir Samvat. Now that Jain Yudhishthir era is gone and Yudhishthir era has started, that Yudhishthir of Mahabharata. He first became ruler of Indraprastha in 3173 BC. After Mahabharata war, 3137 BC, he again occupied the rule of Hastinapur, and in Kali Yuga he bequeathed that empire to Parikshit and went for Himalayas. And that 3101 BC is known as Yudhishthira Abhyudaya Samvata. His Abhyudaya, spiritual Abhyudaya, he went to the Himalayas. So first Yudhishthira Samvat 3173 BC. Second 3173 BC. Why it is 3173 BC? Because in this Varamihir says, Pancha Saptati Varshani Prakakale Saptate Dvijaha. These Saptarishis, 75 years before Kali Yuga, Maghasu Asan, By that time they were Magha Nakshatra, and I told Saptarishis entered into Magha Nakshatra in 3176 BC. And Maharaje Shashati Urvim Yudhishthire, by that time Yudhishthira was ruling the earth. In 3173 BC, Saptarishis in Magha, third year of Magha, and Yudhishthira's rule was there. Again, this Vrihat Samhita says, Asan Maghasu Munayah Shashati Prithvim Yudhishthire Nirpatau Sat Dvik Panch Dvijutah Shakakalasya Rajya. There is a word used as Shakakal. Everywhere you will find the use of word Shakakal. Generally, these historians, they think Shakakal means 78 AD. No. The word Shakakal is used in Sanskrit literature for the regnal year of a particular king. Just like Yudhishthir Shakakal means his regnal period. Vikram Shakakal means his regnal period. Harsha Shakakal means Harsha regnal period. It is not that Shak Samvat 78 AD. So this is a great blunder and mismatching for Indian history. So he says, in a Yudhishthir 2526 years when passed, his existence is there, Vara Mihiraj existence is there, and that is 647 BC. Vara Mihir's date is there. Now, the application of the first Yudhishthir Samvat, as I told, this Vara Mihiraj's date, it shows this is the application. Now there is another mention. Vara Mihir always used Kashmiri Saptarishi Samvat in the name of a Shak year. This Shak referenced by Vara Mihir is also the Kashmiri Saptarishi Samvat, the third cycle of which commenced in 1076 BC. Therefore, the mention of Shak 427 signifies the year 1006 BC. If you will deduct it, it is Shak, it is 649 BC, and this reference was quoted by Varamihir in Pancha Siddhantika. He says, he says that he adopted the Shak year 427 as the starting point for some of his calculations. It is not Shak year 78. He adopted Saptarishi 1076 for the calculation of his, for the purpose of his some calculations. Mahabharata war, everybody knows, I am not going to say anything about it, but there is a proof for that. A whole inscription is there, a whole inscription. It is quoted for Mahabharata war. Meghduti temple records the dates of Mahabharata war is 3137 BC. The people are interpreting this scroll in different ways. I am a Sanskrit scholar, I can also interpret. I am also a Vedic scholar. I have more knowledge of Sanskrit. You know, he says, Trishatsu, Trisahasresu, Bharatad avhaditah, Saptad Shaptayukteshu, Gateshu, Abdeshu, Panchasu. So here these calculations, numbers are there, 30 plus 3000 plus 107 plus 5. This is 3144th year passed from Mahabharata war. Mahabharata war took place in 3136 BC. If you subtract 3142, it will be 5th AD. And another Samvat he has quoted here, that Cyrus Samvatsar, that Persian king Cyrus, and his era was 561 BC. So he says, in 3142nd year of Mahabharata war and 556 year of Shak king in Kali Yuga, Ravi Kirti constructed the temple in 5 AD, expired. So if you deduct the Cyrus king Shakanam Bhubhuzam, that is 561 BC. If you deduct it 556 from it, it is 5 AD. If you deduct 3142 from the Mahabharata war, it is 5 AD. So Kali Yuga of the third Yudhishthir Samvat, that is 301 what is Kali Yuga Samvat, it has been quoted by starting date of Kali Yuga, it is quoted by Aryabhatta in Aryabhattiyam. And this slok I have given, it's very difficult slok, its meaning I have given. He says 28th Mahayuga, just like we say, na, 28 tame Kali Yuga, the same thing is there. 28th Mahayuga, Yugabd, Satya, Treta and Dwapar, when they passed, before the beginning of the current Kali Yuga. The end of the Dwapara took place on 27th September, Bhadrapada Krishna 12th. This is 3101 BCE. Kali Yuga started 27th September, Bhadrapada Krishna 12th, 13th in 3101 BCE, and that day was Thursday. This is the date given, and this Vijaya Yudhishthira's third Samvat 3101. It is also quoted in some of the manuscripts. Dan Shasan is there in Karnataka itself, in Kedarnath temple. It is about Parikshit. He did some donation in Kedarnath as well as Sitaram temple in at the bank of Tungabhadra. So it is quoted over there. Now the epoch of Buddha is most disputed thing. When we go through the Rastarangini of Kalhana, there the epoch of Buddha has been quoted, and it says, Tada Bhagvatah Shakya Singhasya Paranivrittihe Asmin Mahiloka Dhatau Sardham Varshasatam Haggata. He says, when the 150 years of the Turushka dynasty, before 150 years before the Turushka dynasty, Parinirvana of Sakya Singha, Mahatma Buddha took place. And if you go by the chronology of Kalhana's Rajtarangini, not by Stein, by me. So, the Turushka dynasty starts around 1656 BC. And if we add 150 years to that, Buddha's date is 1807. Matlab passing away date 1807. Since Buddha lived for 80 years, so his date of birth is 1887. The same date, I think it has been ascribed by one scholar, Mahadevan, what was his name, from Madras also. He also says the same thing. And Buddha was contemporary to Ajatasattu. His date in Magad Empire chronology is the same, and Kshemajit of Magad. So these dates are quite akin to. Now the epoch of Patanjali is there. As I told, Patanjali was during Pushyamitra Shunga. Pushyamitra Shunga, he performed one Ashwamedha Yaga, and Patanjali participated in that. And Patanjali in his Mahabhashya mentions Pushyamitra Shunga. As I just displayed earlier, according to William Jones, date of Pushyamitra Shunga is 1325. But according to my calculation, date of Pushyamitra Shunga is 1223 BC to 1163 BC. And now there is a tradition, somebody was quoting, Patanjali taught Gurupada, who quote Govindapada, and Guru of Govindapada was the Guru of Shankara. So Patanjali's date here is 12th century BC. So if this is true, then Patanjali and Shankara must be in a difference of 100 years. And that date arrived by me, 1168 BC, is quite close. So there are so many references. Now somebody may ask that in Sringeri tradition, this 509 is there. Let me tell, all these mathas, they were not able to start the chronology from the actual date of Adi Shankar. When they recollected and it came to their mind, oh, we must give some chronology. So every math that some chronology given is a different one. And there are also many problems. There were many Shankaras. Some Shankara, and they were also famous. So we are confusing different Shankaras with the Adi Shankara itself. The Shankar of 788 AD, he died in 85 years age. So that Shankar cannot be aligned with the Adi Shankar. Much is required to do research in this aspect. But so many, these evidences they are pointing out. The different date of Shankar. Then Vikrama era, as I told, it is mentioned in Jain Pattavanis. Vikram era was started by Vikramaditya I in 470 years of the death of Mahavir Jain in 1186, and this is in Guru Avali. Vikramaditya ruled for 16 years. It's Jain books, it is mentioned. He was Jain, he became Jain, but this Vikramaditya was not Jain. So then, use of Vikram era 1770 to 1716. This Vikram era was used in the inscriptions of Chandelas, all Chahmanas except Sakambhari Chahmanas, Gadhwalas, Chalukyas or Solankis, Chavadas, Parmaras, Pratiharas, Aulikaras. So their inscriptions, when you study and you find out the date mentions Amavasya, Purnima, some eclipse is taking place. Now we have a lot of material before us. I also made a 9,000 years calendar where all Amavasyas, Purnimas occurring in this country right from 6000 BC till 2100 BC, Shukla Ashtami, Krishna Ashtami, I have given the date. So whenever you try to find out some date as per those Amavasyas, you can tally with it and you can find out the actual date. I also made some attempts to project the solar eclipses and the lunar eclipses that took place in this country after Mahabharata, but that project is not complete, and that will give you the exact picture, because in inscriptions mostly the grants or the gifts were given by kings either during eclipse or so, because it's the Indian tradition, and by that way we can find the exact dates. So this Samvat is used in these things. Now one Gangeya era is also there, that is 657 BC to 656 BC. I am not indulging it. Shak era, as I told, 583 BC. This is known as a Shaka Nripakal, and 78 AD is known as a Shakanta Kala, when the Shaks, they were driven out from this country. And this Shaka era, Shaka Nripakal, is used by Western Kshatrapas, Yadavas, Pallavas, Kadambas, Banas, Gangas, and early Rashtrakutas. So if you go by this date, the chronology of your history will change by 400, 600, 400 years. It will rise up. Then this Shalivahan Shak, 78 AD, everybody knows. Sakambhari Chahmanas, late Pramaras, Rashtrakutas, later Chalukyas of Kalyani, they used this Samvat as per my calculations. Now Kalchuri Samvat was also prevalent in this country, and that is 581 BC. Popular is 489 AD. The modern historian says that Kalchuri Samvat is 429 BC, and I say it is 581 BC. Lot of difference is there. Why I say? Because this grant is there. In this grant, some solar eclipse has been mentioned, the weekday is mentioned, and I have calculated all these eclipses from 882 BC, means in 2000 years tradition at that place when the eclipses took place, until 1128 AD. And I found only two dates are coinciding. 24th November 299 AD, it was Thursday, ending Friday was starting, and the eclipse is taking place. Another date is 15th November 1128 AD, it was also Thursday. V.V. Mirashi and other historians accept this date. But he further says that moon was in Rohini Nakshatra. But in this date, moon is in Kritika Nakshatra. But in this 299 AD, moon is in Rohini Nakshatra. So this 299 AD is most appropriate date. And if we calculate it, the Kalchuri Samvat will be 581 BC. So now no need to do more digging of the earth. There are eclipses, record of Amavasyas. This astronomical phenomenon, it never misguides you. It happens. There are so many softwares, we must work over them. We must prepare our history based upon them. Now, I was talking about Harsh era. There are two Harsh era. You know, this 457 BC Harsh era was told by Al-Biruni himself. I'm not telling it. He quotes it. And he says, I'm giving the exact quote, Al-Biruni, he came to India in 1017 to 1031 AD, states that Sriharsh era was founded 400 years before the Vikram era. Vikram era 57. So you add, it is 457 BC. So this Harsh, the famous Harsh, who ruled in Kannauj and what we know about him, he says the Hindus believe. Means he is not quoting from his side. He is quoting the Hindus' belief. Whatever by that time Hindus were saying, telling him. He says the Hindus believe regarding Sriharsh. His era is used in Mathura and the country of Kannauj. Between Sriharsh and Vikramaditya, there is an interval of 400 years, as I have been told by some of the inhabitants of that region. But when he reached Kashmir, Kashmirian told one more era. And they said to him that Harsh was born 664 years after Shak Samvat 78 AD. Then he becomes confused. He says, one people say like that, another say like that. I am not able to decide which Harsh is correct and which not. Both were correct. That Harsh is also there and this Harsh was also there. Now, further he says, now the year 400 Yajidat, which have been chosen as the gauge corresponding to the following year Indian eras, to the year 1488 era of Sriharsh, means 1547, the era 1088 era of Vikramaditya, that is 57 BC. This has been quoted by Al-Biruni. Now the second Harsh is there. Al-Biruni, as I quote, he simply quotes, the Indian tradition doesn't mention any era 606 AD. This Harsh era is not mentioned by Indian tradition. As a Harsh era, only 457 BC is quoted. Sriharsh, who ruled 660 years after Vikramaditya, but Western historians concocted the myth that Sriharsh was supposed to have started an era from 606 AD. Thus they clubbed Sri Harshvardhan of Pushpabhuti dynasty, 457 BC, the son of Prabhakar Vardhan, and Sri Harsh, his name was Sriharsh of Rasal, into one person and omitted the name of Sri Harshvardhan of Harsh Vikramaditya from Indian history and created a non-existent era of 606 AD. The second Harsh, its name is found in Chacha Nama. Sham Manohar, he wrote a book and tells that a king named Sriharsh, the son of Risal, was ruling Kannauj in 7th century during the reign of Chandra, the king of Sindh. The Rai dynasty was planted by Brahman minister Chacha in Sindh. Chandra, the brother of Chacha, succeeded him. King Dahir was the son of Brahman king Chacha. And Dahir was, we know, the last Hindu king. Then he was eliminated. After that, the Islamic rule started. According to Chacha Nama, Qasim killed Hindu king Dahir and annexed Sindh and Multan. He sent the daughters of King Dahir as a present to Khalifa. The daughters of the King Dahir, they tricked Khalifa into believing that Qasim had already violated them. The furious Khalifa ordered Qasim to be stitched in an ox hide, which resulted into his death. Turkey. So this was the second Sri Harsh, but this Harsh was made the actual Harsh of that dynasty. So Gupta era, as I told, 327 BC. I think you may be getting bored, but I am just concluding it. In Gupta era was started by Chandragupta I of the Gupta dynasty in 327 BC. Kalhan, in his Raj Tarangini, calls him Harsha Vikramaditya. Kalhana's Shlok is here. At the period there lived in Ujjaini a sole sovereign of the world, the glorious Vikramaditya, who bore the second name Harsha. Here the mention of Vikramaditya with another Harsha points out to the Chandragupta I of the Gupta Vansha. This is the period of Gupta dynasty in Ujjain. Gupta era was started by Chandragupta from 3027 BC to 32 BC, the Gupta dynasty. In 3022 BC, Samudragupta became the ruler, whose regnal year Shakakal is remembered by Kalhan as 322 BC for pointing out his date. His date, this era decides the date of Kalhana. It is not 1148 AD, but Kalhana's date is also 748 AD. And Kalhan says here, Laukike Abde Chaturvinshe. The Saptrishi 24th was prevalent. Shakakalasya Sampratam, the Gupta's regnal year was there, or that regnal year 1070 years passed. So if you deduct 1070 years from 322 BC, it is 478 AD. Then this, one more story is there in Raj Tarangini. When Kashmir king Hiranya died in 3027 BC to 328 BC, he was quite, contemporary Chandragupta I of the Gupta period. His ministers informed the news to Harsh Vikramaditya, Chandragupta of Ujjain, who destroyed Shakas. This Vikramaditya was Chandragupta I of Gupta dynasty. He ousted Shakas from Saurashtra. Matrigupta was patronized by the Chandragupta of the Gupta dynasty. Kalhan Pandit describes in detail his Rajtarangini how Chandragupta I of Gupta dynasty chose Matrigupta to rule Kashmir, and he was made the ruler of Kashmir. And this mention of Matrigupta is mentioned by Samudragupta. He says, Matrigupto jayati ya kavirajo na kevalam Kashmir rajo apyabhavat saraswati prasadataha. Glory of Matrigupta, who was not only a poet, laureate, but by the grace of Goddess Saraswati also become the king of Kashmir. So this Matrigupta is close to Samudragupta, but the people, they give different day to it. Then this Vallabhi era, I told, this has been mentioned by this Kalhan himself, Vallabha Samvat, Vallabha Gupta Samvat. And he says Vallabhi era is also, and Alburini says that the people say that Vallabhi Guptas were very powerful. Thus 319 AD was used as an epoch of Vallabhi era and not that Gupta era, but historians are confusing Vallabhi Gupta era with the Gupta era. Now I have given a list of Hastinapur kings starting from 4300 BC till 1192 BC. I have also given a list of Magadha kings starting from 4000 BC till 1192 BC. So this is a chronology. Overall, this is the gist or what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, this is such a wonderful talk. Couple of quick questions. The whole thing is available in the form of a book or the specific presentation that
Yes, I have written a book, Indian Chronology to Indian History.
Okay, thank you.
It's, old edition is out, new edition is coming.
Thank you, sir. Is there a way in which this can be extrapolated back to talking about, say, Ramayana and other details?
No, I have given the date of Ramayana and everything over there, but
Okay.
because I cannot talk about all these things, I can tell you the date of Ramayana. If you want, you will get surprised. Should I tell?
Yeah, please.
you go to the Puranas, and the Puranic tradition will tell that in 24th Treta Yuga, Ram was born. 24th Treta Yuga. Even Valmiki's date, Purana says, in 24th Parivarta, Valmiki was born. So 24th Treta Yuga, because we are now talking about the Kali Yuga history only, and we are not talking about the Dwapara Treta Yuga history. Their history in Puranas is in the form of Yugas. So 24th Treta Yuga, and today what Yuga we have? You read the Sankalpa Path, Adya Brahmano Dvitiye Praradhe Shvetavaraha Kalpe Saptame Vaivaswata Manavantare Ashtavinshatitame Kali Yuge. We say like that. So this time 28th Kali Yuga is going on. And one Manvantara has 71 Mahayugas. So present day Vaivaswata Manvantara is going on. And it has 71 Mahayugas. Out of those 71 Mahayugas, present Mahayuga is 28th Mahayuga. So 28th Treta passed, 28th Dwapar passed. Now we are 28th Kali Yuga. When this 28th Kali Yuga will end, 29th circle will start. So Ramayana says 24th Treta Yuga. Ram was born, and surprisingly, Al-Biruni also says like that. You read in that Al-Biruni's book, he will tell you that when he came to India in 1031 AD, he was told by Indians that Ram was born in this country 1 crore 60 lakh years ago, because 24th Treta Yuga is 1 crore 60 lakh years ago. Now you will ask, do you have any archaeological proof? Because archaeology is must. If your archaeology is not there, then you won't accept anything. But there is, fortunately, there is some archaeological proof also for there. If you will read Ramayana, that Yuddha Parva or Sri Lanka Parva, Hanuman goes to Ravana's palace when he was in search of Gita. And he discovered at Ravana's place the elephants. And he describes 4 shlokas there. He says, 4 tusked elephants, big like clouds, they are standing over the dwar, door of the palace of Ravana. So now we have 2 tusked elephant. 2 दांत वाला हाथी है. Hanuman describes 4 tusked elephant, 4 दांत वाला हाथी. So, but you will say, how come the 4 tusked elephant? You go to Google, you do Google search, there is Encyclopedia Encarta. It says that in this world, on this earth, 4 tusked elephant were present on the earth, and the last 4 tusked elephant, it goes out of scene in during 15 million years ago. So that period is 1 crore 50 lakh years. So when Puranas say that 24th Treta Yuga, Ram was there, so the 4 tusked elephant was also there. And one more calculation I have given, the date birth of Ram is quoted in Ramayana. That on Navami, like that, some grahas have been given. Generally, the astronomers, they calculate Uch or Nich grahas, like that. So just like in astrology, you count this is Uch graha, this is Nich graha, it is not there. By that time in Siddhant Granthas, this astrological calculation was not there. If you go through Surya Siddhant, you will find the concept of Mandaucha, Shigraucha, like that. So Mandaucha means whenever one planet is farthest from sun, farthest point, and if that point is taken as the exact location, and if you will find out its revolution around sun, then the period of revolution will change. And Surya Siddhant gives their years. The Mercury at Mandaucha, he will take only 400 rounds of the sun in a kalpa, like that. So that calculation when I did, it was 24th Treta Yuga. So this traditional dating is there, everything dating is there. Nothing is, no such thing is there where we can't say that this doesn't exist. All datings are there, but I believe that dating, I'm not saying this is my dating, but I believe that dating 100%, because my research methodology says that there are 4 types of pramanas. Pramana means means of acquiring knowledge. One is pratyaksha praman, whatever you see directly through experiments, that is pratyaksha. Another is anumana praman, whatever is we take by inference. Suppose the smoke is there, we can infer that there must be fire also. That is also the valid praman. And third one is upamana praman is there on the basis of similarity, because the wild cow and the cow, there is a little bit difference, but somebody says that wild cow, gavai, is like that of this cow, and you come across with the wild cow, and you know this cow better, then you can infer that this is wild cow. And another praman that our scholars have given, that is Shabda praman. Shabda praman means the authority of our shastras, the authority of the books of the seers written by seers, and you know, even the yogic pratyaksha has been accepted as the pramana. Sometime what the yogi perceive in samadhi, that is also perceived as the valid source of information, because yogi's pratyaksha can be verified by another yogi. Not if some scientists say you come prove in the lab, it cannot be proved, because everything cannot be proved. Certain things can be experienced. That is why while defining Jnana and Vijnana, we defined Vijnana separately from today's meaning. Today we say whatever is experimented in science, laboratory, observed, that is in the category of Vijnana. But Adi Shankara says, Jnanam Vishayaha Vishayanubhutira Vijnanam Vijnanam Anandam Brahma. Valid information is Jnana. And whatever is realized, when that Jnana becomes the realization, subject of realization, you experience it, that becomes Vijnana. So in our definition, experimental knowledge is also Vijnana, but experiential knowledge is also Vijnana, because the presence of Brahman, it can be experienced. And further Shankara says, Vijnanam Anandam Brahma. When the presence of Shankara is experienced, it becomes the subject of Vijnana. For a yogi, it is blissful. Similarly, Swami Dayananda, the founder of RS Mahas, he defines Vijnana, and he says, Parameshwaradarabhya Trinaparyantam Padarthanam Sakshat Bodhana Vayatvat Vijnanam. Right from the Brahman till the grassroots level, when all these objects becomes the subject of realization, that becomes Vijnana. So, our definition of Vijnana is far-reaching, more advanced than the definition of modern science. So, because this is the Shabda Pramana, I don't say that everything written in Puranas is correct. Puranas are history of creation, but now so many interpolations are there, they need to be removed. The earlier definition of Puranas is given, Sargasya, Pratisargasya, Vansho, Manavantarani cha, Vanshanucharitam chaiva, Purana Panchalakshanam. Creation, decreation. Manavantra means time calculation system. Vanshanucharit means the this lineage of grahas and nakshatras and their lineage, that is the subject matter of Purana. Just like solar system is there, the sun is, from sun became earth and so many planets. So this is their lineage. So whatever story in Puranas are there, what we call as myth, that is the astronomical facts. When You know, Prajapati weds his 27 daughters to the Chandrama. Those 27 daughters are the 27 nakshatras, and they are wedded to Chandrama. When Chandrama takes round of those 27 nakshatras, we calculate the time. That is why in Rigveda also, nakshatra soma ahita. Nakshatra upaste soma ahita. This moon is sitting in the lap of these nakshatras. So all these astronomical thing, whatever is adhidaivik, that is astronomical. Whatever is adhyatmic, that belongs to Brahman and the soul, and whatever is adhibhautik, that belongs to this Laukik world.
Thank you very much. I'm inspired to read your book.
Arya sir, based on the moment of Arundhati Nakshatra, Nilesh Oak says Mahabharata is 7,000 years old, Ramayana is 14,000 years old, and Rigveda is 21,000 years old.
Right.
What do you opine about it?
You know, this is Nilesh Oak's own concept. Whatever I am saying, never in the Puranas it is written that it was Arundhati or so. Whatever I am saying, my findings are based upon our tradition. Nilesh Oak has emerged as a new seer. You go by him or you go by your old rishis, that is your choice. I have nothing to comment over his findings. If somebody third person says and he raises some new theory, just like becomes Einstein, that is his problem. And if you understand him as the new Einstein, that is your problem. But whatever I say, that is based upon the Shastras. If you quote evidence, pramana, from some Shastra, then I can debate. But I have no such, intention quoting all these things. Whatever says in Puranas, my interpretation is 100% correct. I can prove it. I can prove it through mathematics. I can prove it by other means. I have written 100 books, translated almost all the three darshanas, translating others also. Entire translation of Yoga Vasishta I have done. I have written 13 books on Vedic science. Whatever Nilesh Oak has done, or he is just hearing words or written something, that is, you will have to see. There is a written proof, sometimes there is an oral proof. You can say anything. Now in social media, everybody is saying whatever comes to his mind. So everybody is free because the channels are there.
So, firstly, I would like to ask you for the clarification of the confusion of yogas. So, there are different definitions of yogas, and also, I mean, it depends on the ruler, some say, and it depends on the specific number of years, some say. And second question is like, the date of Shankara, it seems confusing because Kumarila Bhatta and Shankara are contemporary, that is established. But Kumarila is said to be the student of Buddha scholars and not the Jaina scholars, right? That was a confusion I would like you to ask to
clarify. The word is used Jina. It was used for Buddha also. Mind
yeah.
In the context of Buddha, in Kalhana's history of Kashmir, he uses the word Jina for Buddha also. So he was more influenced by Jainas, not Buddhas. So there is a confusion because of this Jin word. And so far as the Yuga chronology is concerned, I am not saying anything. Your Sankalpa Path. You know the Sankalpa Path? You please announce it.
आद्य ब्राह्मणः द्वितीय परार्धे श्वेतवराह कल्पे वैवस्वत मन्वन्तरे कलियुगे अष्टाविंशतितमे कलियुगे प्रथमे पादे जम्बूद्वीपे it continues with the land
that 5000 you speak that one also.
Which one?
The year of Kaliyuga in Sankalpat, what you say?
अष्टाविंशतितमे कलियुगे. Next one.
Panchasahasra means 5128 year of Kaliyuga, like that we read it. So Kaliyuga period, there are two views. Let me clarify it. There are two types of calculation. One is divine calculation or Daivika Ganna. Another is Manushi Ganna. It is there in Surya Siddhant, Manusmriti and all the Shastras. Now, what is Daivi Ganna and what is Manushi Ganna? It has to be clarified first. You know, in Taittiriya Sanghita, there is a mantra, it says, Devanam yad aha manushyanam tadavarsham, like that the statement is there. So this polar regions, North Pole and South Pole, they are known as the Deva region. North Pole is known as Sumeru, South Pole is known as Kumeru, and the whole earth is known as Meru. So that polar region, that is known as Devalok, and South polar region is known as Danava pole, Rakshas pole. But it's not bad or thing. These are the technical terms. So when one day on Devalok passes, means there is 6 months day and 6 months night. Then 1 year at human lok passes. This equator is known as human lok because the maximum human population resides around equator. So 1 day of devas is equal to 1 year of
Humans.
Manushyas. Similarly, in Manusmriti, a calculation has been given. Manusmriti says 1200 years of devas is equal to 1 Kali Yuga. So if you multiply 1200 by 360, 4,32,000 years of Manushas. He says 24. Twice the Kali Yuga is 24. Thrice the Kali Yuga is Treta. 4 times the Kali Yuga is
Krita Yuga.
Krita Yuga. So both calculations are correct, but for historical purposes and our Puranas, they have taken this Manushya Kala Ganna, Manushya Yuga Kala Ganna. If we would have accepted Daivika Kala Ganna, then you could not have stated through tradition 5,000 years of Kali Yuga, because after 1200 years of Kali Yuga would have passed, after then again 2400 years of Dwapar would have passed, and now we would have been sitting into the Treta Yuga. And similarly, if you calculate this 24th Treta Yuga, your calculation will change. And how this calculation took place? 4,32,000. How it came? Because during 7 grahas, this Mercury, Sun, Venus, or Earth is replaced by Sun, and then your Jupiter. When they start from one place and they come again to the same place, their LCM of their movement you calculate, it is around 4,30,000 years. That is, we say Kali Yuga, joining one time. Joining twice, Dwapar. Joining thrice is Treta. Joining 4 times is one Mahayuga. So this calculation is purely astronomical. So whatever they say, that is based upon conjectures, less understanding of the Shastras, but this is the truth, because it is in application. We are saying 5,000 years of Kali Yuga. We are not saying this year of Treta. We are not saying this. So whatever is in Vyavhara is different. Whatever is in their minds is a different. That is conjecture, that is speculation. But Vyavhara application is something different.
Thank you. Thank you for the talk also.
One last question.
Yeah.
Namaste, sir. I'm Ritvik Shastri. I'm a student of humanities studying history. There's this very famous African proverb that says that we'll never understand the story of the lion when it's always written by the hunter. So similarly, it's very refreshing to see a very new perspective given to this chronology. But I just want to ask, it's not a very technical question, but to understand how we can propagate this and make it the most accepted theory, because it's usually that the least refuted theory becomes the most accepted one.
You cannot make anything most accepted. the Europeans, the Westerners, they are not going to accept it. If you will say that this is cow and cow is there, they won't say no, this is not cow. Because acceptance is in your mind. The truth or untruth is in your mind. And in our north there is a saying, आप सोते हुए को जगा सकते हैं, आप जागे हुए को नहीं जगा सकते. They know the truth, but they are not going to accept it. But main thing is, we shall have to accept ourselves. We shall have to confident on our Shastras. If we won't accept it, let others go to the hell. They accept it or not, we have nothing to do with that. But we are to propagate this theory among our folks. We are not cared about the West. We are caring for our own folks, and we are working for our Rashtra. We are working for our people. When I used to deliver lecture in the West, the same question arises. I say, I'm not just here to make them understand. They understand or not, that is their problem. We don't want to make anything to understand everything. But we want our persons to understand. You have confidence on your Shastra. You find more scientific means to prove their, whatever quote is there, and that is scientific. Their theory always changing. Because archaeologically you have not unearthed the whole earth. Every day theories are changing. You might have read the book by Michael A. Cremo, Forgotten Archaeology. He writes there, whenever the antiquity of Indian past is highlighted by some researches, archaeological foundings, those facts are going to be suppressed by archaeologists. In Brazil, when I was traveling in South America, I was given to understand that this Christian missionary, they obliterated all such signatures that were going similar to India or Vedic system. They obliterated all such signatures. So don't expect that the enemy is going to do justice with you. The Islamic invaders, they destroyed everything. The Europeans, they did not destroy, but they distorted everything. So our duty to undo what has been wrongly done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Sir wants to ask one question.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful assertion of Shabda Pramana. I was fortunate to listen to or read about some of the part of this chronological plot in the writings of Pandit Kota Venkatachalam. And very pleased to see Pandit Kota Venkatachalam.
Yes. Pandit Kota Venkatachalam.
Kota Venkatachalam. So as a Telugu, I have been, bred on those kinds, so therefore that assertion was very pleased.
Pioneering work during his time.
Right. And I'm very pleased to see the kind of, subsequent kind of, other sources that you have actually given. I have a different kind of question that certainly arises from the nature of, current practices in vogue. There is something very, very, significant that I believe that all of, Bharata, north of Vindhyas, takes Vikramashaka as the point in all the, calculations made in the Panchangas. And all the Paramparika Panchangas in south of Vindhyas, there is a focus on Shalivahan Shaka. I noticed that, in Bhavishya Purana, there is a reference where Shalivahana is stated to have driven away the Mlechas up to the current, beyond the Sindhu river, but he could not conquer beyond the Sindhu river. And whereas Vikramashaka, Vikrama of Vikramashaka, he was able to conquer up till Saudi Arabia. And in fact, there is a reference that in Makkah, there used to be a certain poem which actually refers to this and so on. So what is it that, the memories that are actually still prevalent in north of Vindhyas as opposed to south of Vindhyas, what does this signify?
No, certain things are reserved in South India also. There is a lot of difference in North India and South India. We always faced the attacks of the invaders, and you were quite safe here. You preserved your culture more better way, and our whole culture was destroyed. We were always fighting. Everybody entered, through west, northwest in India. Through sea routes, the people were not do too much as it was done in North India, and you are very much right. The Vikramaditya of 57th century, he even established that Makkah temple. He was still Makkah, Medina, and our rule was still Arab also. Afghanistan was also in India. It's not a long back history. Burma was also the part of India. Tibet was also the part of India. Afghanistan, we know everything. Pakistan, it's not a hidden thing. So the people who were really, this Chanakya, he was in Gandhar, Takshashila. So they had, even in Mahabharata, if you go through Mahabharata, Shalya was from Iran, Bhagdat was from China. So the entire Asia from one end to Himalayas to the other end, we were ruling, our rulers were ruling. And we were quite friendly, there was no such enmity. Even north and south also, there was no such, caste, there was no such, separation. We were all, but due to these Western plots, dividing and rule policy, they made you Dravidian, us Aryan, they were also Dravidian, there is no difference. These are all regional differences. Just like now Punjab, Karnataka, these are regions. People living in different regions, they were all Vedic, there was no Aryan race, but still if you say that Vedic are Aryans, so people living in South, they were also Aryans. So there is no such difference, but so far as the Shak is concerned, that 78 BD, Shalivan, he driven away all the Shak rulers. But by the time of Vikram, because Vikram preceded him.
In fact, traditional things say that he was his grandfather.
He went up to...
Vikrama was the grandfather of Shalivahana.
So there are some scholars who says that this 78 BC, there was no actual Shak. It is astronomically, this year was fixed at the Shak Samvat for calculation purposes. More investigations are required. I told 2 Vikramas are there. Kalidas, Varamihira, they lived in the court of Vikrama first, not in this Vikramaditya. So more is needed to clear the clouds and all those things. I have done some work, but you have raised a very good point. I never thought of it. Now I will clarify
because
this point.
I still believe that, say, the memories that are still carried have a very significant weight in it. So there must be some very strong reason which we aren't able to account for, that Vikrama Shaka is followed north of Indias and Shalvan Shaka is followed south of Indias.
Yeah.
So I'd certainly be interested to learn more.
But certain people who translate Varamihi's book, there the Shak Kal has been used. They use the 78 AD. But I am using there the Saptrishi Samvat 3766 BC. The same calculations are coming. From 78 and 3076, same calculations are coming. So there is a need to do more research. That is why I invite young scholars who are interested in this area to do more work. I am there to guide. We can do more work and we can finalize things. Because a lot of confusion, so much intermixing is there. It is very difficult sometimes to clear the things, but this is a valid point. And sometimes I think this Shak, earlier I was thinking, I quote one that 24 AD Shakakal, that may be the Vikram also, because Vikrama's rule is from 82 BC till 19 AD. But because that rule has come till 19 AD, so this 24 goes to the Shaka of that Shalivarna Shaka. But the list of, Mahabharata, this Delhi list, Indraprastha list of king, it also comes closer to Shalivahan in my chronological level. So there is some point to be pondered over. You raised a very good question, and I'll take care of it. Then I'll clarify.